up, guys? Tambo here with your Week 3 core report. It was another huge week for Run Pure members, as once again, our logos were all over the leaderboard. I myself actually kicked things off, hitting for $38K on the Thursday NFL Showdown slate, and then once again with another $35K on the PGA slate for President's Cup. You can catch all my core plays and attack plan for every NFL slate, as well as for PGA, available to premium members on runpuresports.com. You Kill Bill Walsh followed up, nailing his CFB core plays for the second week in a row. Shout out to GoBoys18 for hitting over $7,500 on the Friday DK CFB slate. On the NFL main slate, the man shipped big yet again with a $105,000 hit on DraftKings. But once again, it was one of Big T's cores that broke the slate on Monday Night Football. Big T made the unique call of plugging kicker Graham Gano in at captain, opening up salary to load up on studs for a projected low total game. Tony actually called his shot earlier in the day on our free NFL Showdown show.
What does a kicker have to score to get you there if you play him in the captain, Tony?
I mean, I think to like full ship, you would need 5+ field goals, but in a game like this, you could get 5+ field goals.
By the way, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, what the hell are you thinking? It's free. Just click the red subscribe button on our channel or the bottom right corner of our videos. Big T's strategy paid off big time, shipping literally all the money on DraftKings. Tony won over $280K himself, but he was not alone. RPS members chopped the top prize in the DraftKings Millie Maker, including JCOM turned $70 into $7K. Derek Bowe turned $45 into over $10K. B-Wall-Show5 did the exact same thing. BP Consi turned $90 into over $10K. Jeffy B123, Noon7, MBY Littell 1928, Armed Rogery, Hard Work 24/7, and DSF Dom all joined in, hitting over $10K each. Jay Gingery turned $245 into over $12K. Gators S070, Master 24, and APOC 14 hit for $13K each. Guy Nation Matt Guy shipped over $20,000. Hala Made himself hit for $20,000 as well. Uncle T even got in on the action, shipping over $27,000. And Rubio's core plays and playbook nailed the game script too, and he joined in on the fun, hitting for over $19,000 himself. I cannot stress enough the benefits of being a member at Run Pure Sports. All it takes is one night like this, and it can set you up for the entire season. And we give you guys the tools and content to make it happen. Head on over to runpuresports.com to check out all our premium options, including SaberSim packages, and we'll see your screenshots in the Discord soon. Until next week, good luck in your contest, and let's keep running pure.
Morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the first look over on Run Pure Sports. I'm Eric Crain, and we got a special guest today. First off, we have AP, yada, yada, yada. You're here every week. What's going on, man? How's it going?
Yada, 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 yada. What's that? That's Seinfeld, right?
It could be. I don't know.
Yada, yada.
It's something I said for a while,
guys?
but it's totally possible I stole it from Seinfeld and don't remember it.
That's when the rum like, I was with them on the couch and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, what's going on, guys? Here, tournament first looks, excited for it. I got a couple L's to take from last week, like the Chiefs game. I mean, again, I'm biased. It is what it is.
Are you doing okay? Are you doing okay?
Oh, yeah. We did this last year. I know things have changed a little bit, but man, everyone, including DC, who's here with us today, when the Chiefs were 3-4, wrote them off. Your guy AP, I didn't. I stayed with it. Always Mahomes. I'm still # always Mahomes. I'm not changing. The Chiefs, it's going to be a good season. They're going to be in the mix down the stretch.
So you're not going to write them off when they're 2-2 after losing to the Bucs this week?
I mean, I don't think they're going to lose to the Bucs, but yeah, I'm not going to write them off.
You didn't think they were going to lose to the Colts either, but here we are.
Sorry.
We'll
We'll talk about it because I want to say my piece in that game.
I'm sure you do. It's a weekly AP Chief segment. And also joining us, filling in for Locks today, we got DC. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be joining you guys today for the first look show. And AP, listen, man, you're not alone on having to take L's. Everybody does, right? Everybody that's watching this show that didn't ship the cheese on Sunday, which, let's be honest, is most people. Whether or not you're willing to take the public L or not, if you didn't win, you got an L to take too. So that's most people. DFS is hard. We know our guy Big T makes it look easy at times, but it's not an easy game. It's just not. So you keep working, you try to get better, you try to think about things. I think looking, at Big T, what he does, I think the best thing he does, I think he would kind of tell you the same thing, is he just thinks about the games critically, right? I know a lot of people are good with the numbers. He's good with that stuff too, but ultimately what I think separates him, and, I'm always trying to get better, is think about the games. Take a moment, go outside, go for a walk, and think about what you really think is going to happen after you've dug into all the numbers. You get the snap counts, the routes. There's more to it than just that. You got to be able to think critically about what is going to happen in these football games and be realistic with yourself. And I think that's what Big T is the best in the world at doing. So it's something I'm working on myself, always trying to get better. Everybody watching the show is doing the same thing. And, I just hate the haters on Big T. Use it as motivation, right? Not jealousy, I think is the key lesson. And, I've certainly been guilty of that myself at times, but yeah, moving on to week 4 and hopefully picking some winners here.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned trying to get better and like kind of looking at Big T and what he does. Me personally, so I didn't watch the Showdown content last week. So I had no idea the flood was coming. And I think it's clear that everybody who watched it kind of knew what was coming when Gano was lining up for that 51-yarder. And meanwhile, I'm in a different group chat, and they're like, man, all these Gano teams just this Gano captain teams. What the bleep is going on here? Like, and next thing I know, I look and it's just like everybody I know, I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's very clearly something that I'm missing in showdowns. And that's something that's a format that the industry is kind of very clearly taking a liking to, and I've got to get better at. So maybe that's going to be my New Year's resolution. We're starting to get later in the year. Never mind. If I make it my New Year's resolution, I'm going to be too damn late. I should make it my September resolution. And we're on September 28th, which means that we are about to start NFL week 4. And that means that we've got another London game this week. DC's Vikings are traveling to London to play against the Saints, which means that there's going to be no Chris Olave for me on the main slate. Means there's going to be no Justin Jefferson to disappoint us on the main slate. And I know, DC, you're going to be waking up at the butt crack of dawn to be scripting 150 in this showdown, but we can talk about that game a little bit later. But let's talk about the main slate. Let's kick it off with some quarterbacks, man, because obviously we've got a number of guys here. AP, your boy Patrick Mahomes. DC, your boy, always Mahomes. He's going to be there. When you look at quarterbacks on this slate, I think a lot of people are going to be starting off with this Bills-Ravens game, 51.5 point total. The Bills 3-point favorites. You get Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson. If you're wanting to stack up a game, this is kind of the clear one to go. Is this where you're going to be looking at quarterbacks, AP?
Yeah.
Go ahead, DC.
Well, no, this is bad. We got two initial guys here. Hey, before either of you get in, before I forget, click some subscribes. We would really appreciate it if you like to hear about DC learning about roster construction, about AP complaining about
I was
Chiefs,
just trying to think back to, like, I think we've done this now. What? So okay, this is our 4th week, right, Craig?
Yeah. This is week 4.
Have we changed the format up each week? I like it. That's not a diss anything.
This is what we did. This is what we did.
Is that okay? He was asking me what the format was, and I'm like, we'll see when we get on there with Crain, because he's our guy, and
we're playing a little game called Crain Says, which is my favorite game. I don't get to play it at home with my 4-year-old, so we're gonna play it on air. Okay, we'll kick it over to DC then. DC, is this the game you're looking at to kind of stack up, especially at quarterback, just because Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson doesn't get better than these two?
I mean, I think you would be insane not to look at this game right off the bat, to look at these quarterbacks. I've talked about it these last couple of weeks. Last week, I was all in on Josh Allen. I had a lot of Jalen Hurts as well. These quarterbacks that can do it all, that are the true centerpieces of their team's offenses, are kind of the cheat codes right now in DFS. I mean, Josh Allen didn't even play that well, put up 400 yards passing, 30 DraftKings points. It wasn't quite enough because, you had Lamar Jackson, who obviously went off again. Now these two teams get to go at it. We've seen, Baltimore their defense has been horrible. Gave up 26 points to the Patriots, whose offense has looked putrid. And Lamar Jackson is just doing it all. But the nice thing about these two quarterbacks is obviously they can run, right? Lamar Jackson known for his wheels. That's really where you get the giant gains, right? Not from the passing quarterbacks. It's just hard to put up the huge numbers that guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen can put up because they can do it with their arm, yes. But the huge runs, right? The 40-yard touchdown runs, those are the things that really vault you up the top of the tournament standings. Both these guys are expensive. I know a lot of people like to pay down a quarterback in general. This week, I'm going to be spending. I mean, this game has the potential to just go to the absolute moon, I think. I do really think the Bills defense is great, but the way Lamar Jackson's playing right now, I don't know. I don't know if of course, nobody is unstoppable, but he certainly looks like he's taking over. And the nice thing about these two teams is they don't have running backs that really do all that much. Like you saw Devin Singletary have a good game for the Bills, and maybe we'll see the emergence of J.K. Dobbins for the Ravens over time. But make no mistake, these are the two guys, right? This is him. Is that the meme right now? These are him, like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. They're going to get it done. It's going to be a back and forth affair. And I think they're going to put up huge scores once again. So I will absolutely be in on this game. It'll be a thing where some people talk themselves out of, the chalk game, the highest total, the two most popular quarterbacks. Don't make that mistake. These guys are going to come in 10 to 15% owned like they always do. You don't need to worry about, in my opinion, ownership at quarterback very much. I think there's two games on this slate that stand out above the field by a huge amount. This is the first one. I'll have both of these guys. I don't really have a lean right now on which guy I want more of. We'll see how some of the injury news shakes out, both on the offenses and in the secondaries, that sort of things with Baltimore and Buffalo. But absolutely, I will have a lot of exposure to both Allen and Jackson. We'll see, which one of the two I end up, kind of going with more. But unless something changes that I don't anticipate, these are going to be two of my highest owned quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the rest of the quarterbacks, and it's difficult to get excited about anybody else. I mean, Justin Herbert
they can't keep up with these guys.
No,
most of them can't.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert would be a guy that I would have interest in, but boy, it's tough to watch that last week and how he's throwing the ball and have any sort of confidence in him whatsoever. He is about $1,000 cheaper than those two guys. Yep. If you want to try and save a lot of money, Daniel Jones at $5,400. I'm not sure this is the week to do that because spinning up for these quarterbacks is just going to be, it's just too many points to leave on the table, I think. AP, what's your take here?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with what DC said and Ukraine, just like looking at that game. It's hard to envision scenarios where Josh Allen isn't putting up a big number here. It just seems like the Bills coming off that. I mean, it was a brutal game. Against the Dolphins there. I mean, physical game, which is why I think the Bengals roll, tomorrow night. And, and it's, siding with Big T, who's on the absolute heater right now. So love to see that, on the same side as him. But it's hard to just Josh Allen feels like very, very safe. And then Lamar Jackson probably will be the lower owned despite the performances, he's been having. So, with that in mind, if the Bills, if they're still having injury issues in their secondary, I think you got to go right back to this game. Just looking to, get outside of the box there a little bit, places where we can get different. I do go to Justin Herbert and the Chargers because this team, I mean, I don't think any of us thought they would be where they're at right now. This team, a lot of people were predicting to be right there in the Super Bowl. Myself kind of included. I thought it was going to be them or the Chiefs, to win the AFC West. And Herbert 7-1, and then we should get Keenan Allen back this week. We should get Mike Williams will be in there. It just seems like a spot against the Texans where they could pour it on. They score 20, 28, 31 points, something like that. Big win. Have to think that Herbert plus Mike Williams or Keenan Allen stacks could be in play. The problem there is their defense. I mean, their defense should be pretty good. They got absolutely embarrassed last week by Jacksonville, but maybe a fluke game. Who knows? I mean, it was very tough. The that maybe the Jags defense, I know Snyder's been talking about it for quite some time, underrated defense. They do look very good. They were pressuring Herbert and just absolutely attacking him, but it does seem like a nice bounce back spot. And then going here, I mean, this is another one. Like, the Patriots surrendered a ton of points last week. Usually a team that I don't like to play against because they like to slow the pace down, like to, manage things a little bit. But Aaron Rodgers, 6'3", Romeo Dobbs, 4'5". You got Lazard. Like, I'm looking at some Packer stacks here. I could see this being like a Rodgers Packers absolutely poured on, where they embarrassed the Patriots too. So I'm looking at some like onslaught stacks as a way to get a little bit different, to where I'm not as focused on any run backs from the other side. It's more so I think this team is going to pour it on. Hopefully they do so in a manner that aligns with the stack that I like, and not going to be as worried about run backs. So one other one I'm looking at, and obviously early, but I think it was our boy. So, okay. Yeah. Geno Smith, our boy, JT Hayes, was talking about Geno Smith last week, and just, it was more matchup based. And when you look at the total of this game at 50, I mean, these Lions games just set up to be shootouts right now. And, I want a piece of that. A very, very, cheap way to stack it. You got Geno's 5'4", DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, both have very favorable price tags. And the run backs are very nice on the other side. So that's going to be a game that I think garners some ownership, in full stacks, because you could go Geno, Metcalf, or Lockett, run it back with Jamal Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown, or even DJ Shark. So a lot of ways to attack that game too.
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned Daniel Jones. I don't hate the match with the Bears here at 5,400. He's somebody that we know is going to run the ball. Everybody's going to play Saquon. If you want to save a little bit of money, I don't hate the idea of going Daniel Jones, but kind of like we talked about a few minutes ago, this is going to be a slate where it's really tough not to spin up a quarterback. And I'm usually a dude that tries to save money at quarterback. I'm usually trying to find these cheap, crappy-ass quarterbacks that are going to get me 20, and I'm just not sure that's going to get it done this week. We just talked about the Giants game with Daniel Jones, and that running back, I think we're going to see the chalk very clearly be Saquon Barkley against this Bears defense. Dameon Pierce, he just had a big game against him, and Barkley at 8K is somebody that we like. We just, when we're talking about Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, we say we like them because they're the whole offense. Very rarely do we get that at the running back position, but that's what we've got with Barkley here at 8K. Now, it might be tough to stack up that Ravens game and get Barkley. Like, that might be tough from a pricing standpoint, because we talked all last week about how we wanted to pay up a wide receiver. Might be tough to pay up for Barkley this week. DC, we'll start with you here. What are you doing with Barkley? What are you doing with this running back position? Because there are a couple nice guys. Austin Eckler, another one against Houston. We've been picking on them from a running back position all season. The question is, are they going to give more than 4 attempts to Austin Eckler? What are you doing with this running back position, DC?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, starting with Saquon Barkley, who looks, he looks amazing just on the field, right? Not that we're NFL scouts, but you can just see the burst from him. You can see he looks like he's moving at a little bit of a different speed out there than the defense. Even on Monday night, there's a couple runs, where he kind of got 1v1 with the linebacker and didn't juke the wrong way, made the wrong cut, but you could just see it. If he would have gone the right direction, once he gets in the open field, man, he is just so dangerous.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And he's got the explosiveness to do it. Like, he had a big game, and he's had some big games, but I think he is close to really taking over, right? Like, again, every game that he plays, he's kind of another game removed from the knee injury. He didn't have it last year. I think we'll see the Giants lean on him more and more. Even like the first half of that game, it was kind of baffling how few touches he got. You saw him turn it on in the second half, but I just think he looks so good out there, and I just think the Giants are going to continue to lean on him, especially, you would expect him to win this game at home against Chicago, who looks terrible. I don't think the Giants will have an issue, if the situation calls for it, given Barkley 25, 30, 35 touches, I think is possible for him. He looks like, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL right now, talent-wise, explosiveness-wise. So, yeah, I don't see a reason to get away from him as the RB1. There are other good options, right? We saw McCaffrey bounce back Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, of course, are capable of big games, but I don't think those guys are on the level of Saquon Barkley right now. I really don't. Just as a talent, I feel honestly a little bit better even about Barkley's workload than those guys just going forward. I know looking back, maybe that's not necessarily the case, but I think Barkley is going to be a guy that I personally am going to lean on this year. We talked about it with quarterback. Sometimes attaching yourself to a player or an offense early in the NFL season. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I did it with Patrick Mahomes, his rookie season. It was before week 1. I said, this is going to be the guy. I think he's going to do it. And sometimes you're right about that stuff, and you can just ride it even through the bad games. Barkley looks like that guy. I think that the quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, are dudes that you want to have a lot of exposure to each and every week, right? Despite sometimes the bad matchups come or bad prices or whatever it is. But if you can identify some of these guys that you think are going to have big seasons, and I think Saquon Barkley is one of those dudes. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be the RB1 on the year. I think he's going to have a lot of huge games, and he's someone that, I want to attach my lineups to, frankly. So I'm in on Saquon till further notice. He's going to be in a lot of my lineups. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and another guy that I've sort of attached myself to this year, which has not worked out, has been Austin Eckler. And you have to wonder what's going to happen in this game, because if Justin Herbert is still banged up, I know Brandon Staley wants to throw the ball 8,000 times a game, but against this Houston defense, AP, maybe this is me just being a dummy, because I think, the coach has to do this. The coach clearly has to see that you can attack this team with running backs, and yet Brandon Staley doesn't want to run with Austin Eckler. Now, obviously, last week they got down big, and he only had 4 carries. Do you think that could change this week? Because at 7,700, I think a lot of people are going to have trouble clicking on Eckler when they can pay $800 or $300 more and get the Barkley. What do you do? Do you have interest in Eckler this week, AP?
So, my one problem with the Chargers is it kind of similar to looking at a team like the Chiefs. You have so many options there. And when we think about the Chargers, when they're on showdown slates, it's always tricky because it could be Mike Williams. It could be Keenan Allen. It could be Gerald Everett. It could be Josh Kelly getting vulture carries. They're just, there's just so many options there. So Austin Eckler 7-7, if someone has a strong read on them or strong feeling, I'm not going to talk him off of playing him. I just think if Keenan Allen is back, man, it seems like that is going to be such a massive boost. And, I would feel much better about Herbert to Allen stacks over an Eckler. So so Barkley looked incredible on what was that, Monday night? Absolutely incredible. But that line is a problem. They are terrible. He did all of that off of one run. He broke a 50-yarder. So take away that one play, which I know obviously the play happened, and the more touches you give him increases the probability of him breaking one. That's what Saquon Barkley, that's what he does. That's what a lot of these elite running backs do. Derrick Henry, big case. The line just beats down on the defensive line, and then eventually starts breaking them. So it's all about touches and opportunities. So I agree with you on Barkley. I do think he's going to be the mega popular spend up option there. I think it's going to be a Jonathan Taylor week. So, I mean, when you look at this Tennessee Titans defensive line, I mean, they are not good. They've surrendered a ton of yards on the ground. Whereas, Taylor's had tough matchups. We talked about it last week. The Chiefs' defensive front is actually pretty underrated, in my opinion. They've been very, very good, especially against the run. A lot of it has to do with, their linebackers as well. Just, that is the heart of their defense. So I think Jonathan Taylor runs free in this matchup. 8.8K seems pretty cheap. And it seems like Taylor's going to be, a potential pivot off of someone like Saquon Barkley.
He's not going to get ownership. Jonathan Taylor's not going to get ownership.
I could see people playing him.
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to stick in this mid-range. We didn't even mention Aaron Jones, who's a 10-point home favorite. Go ahead.
So, but no. Here's what Crain. So I do think he gets some ownership steamed up late. People are going to start to look at a few things. His overall, the volume that he had. I mean, go back to the game against Houston. Game may have went to overtime. I can't remember, but 31 rush attempts, 7 targets. Against Kansas City, 5 targets. So they're trying to get him looks out of the backfield, and couple that now in a really good matchup at home. Oh man, I think it's an absolute eruption spot. So
yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad play. I just don't think he's going to be popular.
I hope so too. That would be very nice because I'm very high on Johnny Taylor this week.
It's going to be really interesting to see what the ownership projections looks like, because it feels like we flopped back from last week when everybody was pay up at receiver, pay up at receiver, pay up at receiver. And now we're all saying pay up at running back. And guys, hey, if you're enjoying this content, click the like button, click the subscribe button. We really appreciate it over here at Run Pure Sports. So one of the guy that is going to be popular this week is Jamal Williams. He's 6,100 at home against Seattle. DeAndre Swift, it sounds like he's going to be missing a couple of weeks here. And chalk Jamal Williams. DC, how does that sound to you?
Honestly, it sounds pretty good. I'm in chalk Jamal Williams. I have no problem playing a little bit of chalk, especially at running back. I mean, we've all been playing DFS long enough to remember those days. What was it? Le'Veon Bell, was McCaffrey in that group? Saquon. What was the hashtag? Like Team Jam 'em in. These guys just
jam 'em in. Yeah.
And that's running back for you, right? Like the league, the vast majority of running backs teams have split backfields where, they're getting 50% of the work, 60% of the work. You got to hope it's your guy that gets the touchdown run. You're also obviously competing with, the quarterbacks on those teams. And it's just hard to get there as a running back when you're not guaranteed to get the goal line work. You're not guaranteed to get the pass down work. You're only going to be on the field for half the plays. So the few running backs that are left that get most or all of the work become extremely valuable assets, and it's chalk worth eating, I think. And Jamal Williams, to me, falls in that category. I mean, this Detroit offense has frankly looked fantastic. The problem with, playing their running backs, DeAndre Swift, who I'm pretty sure is going to miss this game, and Jamal Williams is they were splitting work, pretty close to a 50-50 split. You take DeAndre Swift out of the equation. Yes, they will probably mix in another back or two, but I mean, Jamal Williams could potentially lead the running back slate in touches in this game for an offensive line that is getting the job done. I don't mind the matchup whatsoever against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think maybe Jamal Williams has kind of a negative connotation of being kind of a boring player. He's an older running back. But
boring still gets points, baby.
Yeah, look what Detroit's getting the job done. Getting the job done. They play Seattle, by the way. I had clicked on
Javonte. You're looking at Javonte, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did that too. I did that also.
Yeah. If you search Williams, you're screwed. I had the same problem. I'm like looking. I'm like, no, the other one.
My mistake there, but it's even better. They're at home against Seattle. That's an even better matchup here for Jamal Williams. You got to imagine Detroit going to win this game probably somewhat easily. I think. I know you like Geno Smith a little bit, but yeah, I think Detroit probably controls this game. Jamal Williams going to be involved in all facets of the offense. He's attached to a quarterback, Jared Goff, who can't run, right? So there's no chance Jared Goff runs it in from the 5-yard line. It's going to be Jamal Williams that gets those touches. There's no chance Jared Goff takes off instead of checking it down to Jamal Williams. That's all going to go to Williams, and he's going to have a huge role in this game. He's too cheap, 6,100. I mean, I think he should come in, 40% ownership. We'll see if he does or not. It's very early in the week to look at ownership projections, I think. But I do think right now, from where I'm sitting, point per dollar wise, I think he's probably the best running back on this slate. I think it's close between him and Saquon Barkley. And again, things could change. It's Wednesday morning here, but I don't think your people's initial reaction to these running backs that look like awesome plays, your initial reaction shouldn't be I'm going to fade them just because they're popular, right? Yes. If you can find reasons, if you can find pivots, other guys that you really like, then of course it's okay not to play these guys, but don't just make the decision right now to fade the popular plays just because they're popular, right? That's not, in my opinion, enough justification to fade some of these guys. So, you know, if you're going to do that, make sure you have guys that you really believe in, because I think these running backs, you know, that we're talking about so far are going to put up some pretty big games.
Yeah, this is a spend at running back week, I think. Spend at running back, spend at quarter. This is an old school week. This is what we were doing in 2017. This feels a little nice. Let's move on to some wide receivers, because if we're spending up at running back, if we're spending up at quarterback, we can't necessarily spend that wide receiver. But one of the guys I am going to try and spend up on is Stephon Diggs, who has just been an absolute cheat code this season. Now he gets a Baltimore defense that's been getting lit up deep, that's been getting lit up by all receivers. I'm going to have some Gabe Davis here from Buffalo too. But Stephon Diggs, he's the top receiver this week. And AP, I don't really think you can make an argument for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against that outside of this Bills. Like, man, like anyone could score. I think we saw Isaiah McKenzie get in the box last week. You know, could be Gabe Davis. So, like, but, you know, Stephon Diggs is obviously the guy that, you know, we know the targets are going to be there. So as far as spend up options go, I mean, yeah, it's a slate where kind of the opposite of last week, where we had all of these elite receivers and all of these like cheap random receivers end up being the guys that crush, and then some random running backs, you know, get there as well. Because I don't even think like the high price running backs last week did that good. I think they got you enough. It was more so you had to have the right value receivers, mainly Mac Hollins, who we all made fun of, which was funny.
And who?
Oh, Chris Olave.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I got them in my best ball team. And like I got a best ball team that's like, well, you know, I only did like 12 just because of our producer, Simon. He got me into the best ball street. So shout out to Simon. But I think I ran like 14 or 15 builds and I couldn't do it anymore. I was like sick of that. And I got a build with all those random dudes, not Mac Hollins, but Chris Olave, who had a very, very nice week. Did you play him last week, Crain? Tell me you played him.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about it because I'll tell you what happened. So I'm at home. It's about an hour before kickoff. All my lineups are done, okay? I have 2 Jamal Williams lineups. I have 2 Chris Olave lineups. I'm feeling good. I did 5 lineups and a bunch of stuff last week. It was easily the most I've played all season. And so I'm feeling good. I go to the gym about quarter till. So I get a text from a buddy who says, hey, DeAndre Swift is a full go. So I'm at the gym and I'm like, well, fuck, here we go. I got to get off my Jamal Williams lineups because I thought DeAndre Swift was going to be limited. So then next thing I know, whatever happened, all my Jamal Williams lineups happen to be Chris Olave lineups. And I switched to DeAndre Swift, which means I downgraded some other, tinkered some stuff. I get home from the gym at 12:30 and I'm looking at my lineups and I have no Chris Olave and I have no Jamal Williams. So basically the rule is stay home, don't go work out, don't go to the gym because you're going to end up screwing yourself. Every week, man, if you do shit on your phone
gym
like that, yeah, that's basically how it worked out. I don't want to talk about it.
Listen.
Okay.
I'm an advocate of going to the gym, but you went to the gym 15 minutes before the lock.
45 minutes before lock. I was done. I thought I was done. No, it was a rookie mistake.
Right.
It was a rookie mistake. I'm taking my L here.
Yeah.
So
I'm taking.
As far as like other spin up options go,
AP was not expecting that story.
I was not expecting that story, you know, and if we start talking about like working out too much, you know, I mean, Big T right now is on one, slam dunking on everyone. I don't want him to slam dunk on our show if we start talking about gyms, dieting and working out and stuff, because man, that'll be, he'll go right at us. So, but great. All right. So what if this week, so we kind of seen this, you know, we had last, I think week 2, it was like the week of the high price running backs. They all failed us. Last week was the week of the high price receivers. There were nut spots, failed us. What if the zigzag theory is a real thing? And what if, you know, double spinning up for running back, which I think is going to be very popular this week, outside of Jamal Williams, if you include him in that group. What if it's the week we go back to like a Devontae Adams, 8-3? This is a must-win game for the Raiders. They're 0-3. Like they're playing the Broncos. The Broncos somehow are 2-1. And Russ, despite looking terrible, I mean, man, somehow he's making it work. More so their defense. But you have to think this is a spot where Derek Carr locks in on Devontae Adams. So I think it's a spot where he could get 14, 15 targets, kind of like we saw in that first game. So I think he's really interesting. I think he's going to be lower owned, right there with Diggs. So, I mean, let's just say you buy, let's just say you played both those guys. I'm not saying go and do it, but let's just say you did. You're automatically, I think, going to be somewhat unique this week because I don't see a lot of people double spending up for receiver. Part of that problem too is just the lack of options for spend up. But I do have some interest in Devontae Adams this week. Just the fact that it's a must-win game. And then, I do think like one reason why I'm interested in a Rodgers to, Romeo Doubs or one of these cheap guys is because it's a cheap stack that I could see doing enough for me. And we know Rodgers like at home, against the Patriots, gosh, it just sets up it could be like a 3 or 4 touchdown game. And if you get the stack right, you're going to be mint and it allows you to spend up elsewhere. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I do think receiver, is a little bit tougher this week, but I mean, we do have really nice options like CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to have interest in him. Like, imagine if CeeDee Lamb on Monday drops that ball that was just tossed perfectly to him, which would have been a touchdown. His line in that game would have been over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Easy. Yeah. He would have absolutely broke the slate. So I do think while we're going to like the slate. So I do think while we're going to like and want good running backs this week, I would not overlook some of these receivers. That's kind of all I'm saying.
Yeah, Lamb is somebody that I don't even really consider that spinning up at wide receiver. 6,700. I mean, you can make that number work almost always.
So last point on that. If Michael Gallup is back, which we have to think he is, don't you think that only helps CeeDee Lamb take some pressure off of him?
Absolutely.
He's not the only guy. The more I talk about it, I'm going to have a ton of interest in
no, I like CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he hasn't had less than 11 targets all season. He's only had one real explosion game. He's only got 1 touchdown for the year. He should, like you said, you should have had 2 because that drop touchdown was all the couch warriors said, "Oh my God, I could have caught that." And we all probably, okay, you guys.
I got my quarterback too, and not to interrupt you, Cooper Rush.
You're not
Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb.
Stop it.
Oh yeah,
I'll go on the record. I'll go on the record and say I definitely would have caught that pass easily, no question about it.
DC, I saw you at the combine.
I saw you at the combine, and you might not have caught it, but I would have caught it.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to let you guys know that Dan Marino threw it behind me, and there's not a damn thing I could have done. All right, it's not my fault that I had speed that he was not anticipating. All right. I am a little disappointed to see Gabe Davis priced up at 6.6. I was hoping he'd be a little bit cheaper with the lack of production this season, but he's somebody I'm going to have a ton of interest in. Again, we talked about that Baltimore secondary. If we're playing Josh Allen, it's tough to afford Stephon Diggs. We've seen Gabe Davis have blow-up games before. It hasn't necessarily happened this year. I guess he did have 4 for 88 in the first game, but Mike Williams is another guy that if you have little interest in Justin Herbert at 7K, you can play some Mike Williams. DC, who are some of the expensive wideouts you're looking at?
Yeah, you guys kind of hit on a lot of them. Of course, Stephon Diggs, you're playing Josh Allen, you're going to get exposure there. I think Gabe Davis, you can do it too. Davis, I worry a little bit if he's going to get enough targets to really, of course, you could score 2 touchdowns or whatever, but ultimately what you really want to try to do is get as many kind of true number 1 alpha type wide receivers into your lineup as possible, right? And there are a couple guys down there where we can do that. You guys mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I mean, like I wouldn't play Cooper Rush, but you can play these kind of statue type quarterbacks. You don't want to play the quarterbacks themselves, right? You don't want to play Joe Flacco or Cooper Rush, or I even think a guy like Geno Smith, the guys that don't run at all. But you can absolutely play their number 1 targets. And you could just see Cooper Rush kind of staring down CeeDee Lamb a little bit. He was clearly the number 1 option on most pass routes. I think he's going to continue to get peppered with targets. 6,700, a bargain for him. And the nice thing is, I mean, he's kind of the only guy on Dallas that I really want, right? Like, I don't really want either of those running backs. I'm not going to play the quarterback, but CeeDee Lamb sitting there is an awesome play. So I think he's a really fun play. What about DK Metcalf, in that Detroit game? We think Detroit's going to put up points. They're kind of putting up points against everybody at home. Seattle's going to have to run it back. And DK Metcalf, it looks like he's kind of clearly emerging as Geno Smith's number 1 option. I think it's kind of comparable to CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Rush. DK Metcalf, he's going to get peppered with targets, I think. 12 targets in that last game, only for 64 yards. He did get in the box, but we know what Metcalf can do, right? He's getting these short targets. So far, it hasn't, translated into a ton of yardage, but it just takes once where DK Metcalf, one of the, premier athletes, size, speed, strength, he puts a stiff arm on the quarterback. He's off to the races. We're going to see that happen to DK Metcalf if he continues to get targeted like he has. So I think he's a fun option. And then the Eagles guys, we talked about Lamar Jackson. We talked about Josh Allen. We didn't talk about Jalen Hurts much. He's the third guy who I think is just emerging as just the true alpha type player. Whole offense is going to run through him. We've actually seen the Eagles. I'm pretty sure this is true. I think they put up 24 points in the first half of each of those first two games.
Man.
And then we're ahead by so many points that they didn't have to do anything in the second half. If we see Jalen Hurts, have to go toe to toe, which I'm not fully bought into this Jacksonville offense yet, but they just put up a bunch of points in San Diego against what I think is a very talented defense. So there's a chance this Jacksonville offense is for real, right? Maybe it really was Urban Meyer that just completely tanked this team last year and Trevor Lawrence, and this team can really move the ball. So that's the second game that I'm very interested in, is that Jacksonville Philly game. If Trevor Lawrence can keep up, I think we could see Jalen Hurts really go off. AJ Brown, and then we saw, of course, Devonta Williams not Devonta Williams. Why is his name escaping me?
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, yeah, have the huge game. Another talented dude. Another guy who clearly has big games in him. So I like both of those guys. I don't know if I want both Eagles receivers on one team, just because Jalen Hurts can do it with his legs as well. But I think either A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith probably has a big game here. So those are guys I'm looking at. And then, if you're going with, the Hurts to Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown stack, Christian Kirk, man, I think these big games are going to continue to happen for him. Clearly has, Trevor Lawrence has his eye. He's the number one target there. I think he could have big games in a potential shootout in Philadelphia. So, I think, the ultimate advice I would give, and what I'll try to do this week as I do every week, is try to get as many of these, guys who could get 10 or 12 targets, who do have game-breaking potential, who have speed. Get as many of these guys into your lineups as possible. There's more of them available, in the mid-range or even cheaper wide receivers than there are running backs, right? If you go down to this range at running back, you're getting guys in timeshares. You're hoping they get a couple touchdowns. Receiver has a lot more variance to the position. So if you can find, some good athletes, some good young wide receivers who are out there every play, those are the guys that can kind of emerge out of nowhere with big games. So we'll see how injury stuff shakes out. We always see it every week. There's some value that emerges. I'm sure it'll be true this week. We just possibly don't know who it is quite yet.
Yeah, this 6K range is just so strong. The chat is really happy about Amari Cooper. The chat is really pumped up about Amari Cooper, which is not something I thought I would wake up and say this morning. But at 6,300, he's seen 10 plus targets in each of the last two games, over 100 yards in those games. I mean, you have to consider him because Jacoby Brissett is very clearly locking onto him. AP, what about
Cooper fits the same mold as CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, right? These 6K wide receivers who are their team's number one option. They're super talented. They can break a big play. Yeah, I think I would throw him in that mix. I would throw Cortland Sutton in that mix.
Yep, Sutton's another guy I was bringing. I was going to bring up for AP because if you like Aaron Rodgers, are you going to be rolling the dice with little Allen Lazard?
Yeah, I mean, you could go Lazard, you could go any of those guys, really. It's more so Rodgers is 6'3", and I mean, there are a lot of targetable games this week. I think the Rodgers plus I don't know if you want to go as far as Cobb, but any of those guys, probably not Cobb actually. Dobbs though would be the guy.
Yeah.
4.5K. You're playing on what it opens up. So I do think, Amari Cooper is the only guy there. They want to keep him involved, and we can attack Atlanta. This defense is not good. I think I'm going to be against you, DC, which is like a rarity on the Jags-Eagles game. I think both those defenses are pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that would be like my one concern. It is kind of crazy going back to week one, thinking about how the Commanders got it done under Carson Wentz. But again, I mean, Jalen Hurts, I continue to, I wish I was on him heavy last week. I wasn't. So maybe I continue to get burned. This could be a spot where they absolutely demolish them. You know, who knows? Maybe this Eagles team is for real. I think they have a somewhat soft schedule, though. You're talking Detroit. I mean, the Vikings, I don't know. I mean, the debate is still out. But what this Jaguars team has done is pretty impressive so far. So, and especially on the defensive side. So we'll see. Maybe they will prove us wrong.
If you want to save a little bit of money at position, Keenan Allen, do we know, is he expected to play this week?
I think so. I mean, he's been like,
too.
I thought he was going to play last week. So
yeah. Well, if he somehow misses, I think Josh Palmer's in play as a cheap play. We just got word that Zach Wilson's going to be back. If you really want to gamble, Elijah Moore. They saw some connection last year, and Elijah Moore is only 4,800. You want to buy low on him. He's still the top dog for the Jets. I know that Garrett Wilson has seen a lot of love, but he's somebody on the other side of that game. I am going to keep playing Chase Claypool. He's $4,700. They very clearly want to get him involved. They're giving him some runs. He's not a sexy play, but I think this is just too cheap of a price tag for him. And the AP's guy, Romeo Dobbs, at 4,500, I think is another one of those values that you have to look at. DC, have I missed anybody? I guess Treylon Burks is another one that we have to consider. Have I missed any of these cheap guys?
Yeah, that's mostly my list for now. Again, I do think we'll see some of these guys emerge. It's important. I didn't play Matt Collins last week. I don't want to talk about Matt Collins. I recommended not playing him, which
we both did. So I'll take that L.
So I thought
our boy K Fallick played him.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be actually more popular than he ended up being.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I always do this because we're in our little bubble. We always say, oh, Matt Collins is a great play, point per dollar play. Probably didn't have the upside. Oops. And I kind of fell into the same problem where I said, I don't want to play this guy because he's going to be so popular. Then I see he was less than 20%. DC, on a scale of like 1 to 10, I felt about a 7.5 stupid when that happened. Are you with me?
Yeah. So he didn't end up being as popular as I thought he was going to be, but honestly, it's not really one that I regret. I mean, they still had Devonta Adams and Darren Waller healthy. I mean, I think there was a reasonable assumption that he was going to be at best the third option in the passing game on that offense, which typically that's not going to do a whole lot, right? Like even when Hunter Renfrow was in that role, yes, he has some big games, but he would still be someone that I would probably end up fading if I knew he was going to be chalk, which Matt Collins, not maybe as chalk as I thought, but did end up being pretty popular. So it's one of those where, yes, you faded him. It didn't work out. He absolutely burned you. You needed him. Not one that I'm necessarily kicking myself too much over. Sometimes your process can be okay and it just doesn't work out. I think that is one of those scenarios. And listen, I'm perfectly willing to admit when I think I truly did make a mistake. Matt Collins, yeah, I think jury's out on whether or not he was good chalk or not, despite the huge game. It's tough going up against, after the games are done and we see who the winners are. You don't want to be the sore loser saying, oh, I was still right anyway. But it is important to look back and say, well, was the reasoning, was the process okay? In this case, I'm okay with losing, not having Matt Collins on my team.
It was definitely tough to imagine Matt Collins having $1,000,000 upside.
So
I mean, it was a 1% game, 1% outcome for him. I really do believe that. So it is what it is.
Maybe we go back to attacking the Titans this week. Maybe it was more indicative to this Titans secondary. Maybe we go with rookie Alec Pierce for the Colts. Matt Ryan was looking his way. The guy looks decent, caught some good balls and dropped a couple against KC. So 3.9K. And it's going to be a way less obvious spot. I don't think anyone's going to play him. So I might have to get me some Alec Pierce this week.
Yeah.
He wasn't even remotely on my radar yet. So
Yeah, now he is. Hopefully, now he is. Alec Pierce.
He saw 5 targets. Like, are we really going to get excited about 5 targets?
I mean, against this, it's more so what he's doing with those targets. I thought he looked okay. I thought he looked decent.
Like, this is a little white receiver. Hoop's going to love this guy, right?
I don't think he's little, right? I thought he had some decent. Isn't he like 6'3" or something? 6'4"?
I don't know. I don't have the Alex Pierce scouting report in front of me. I have no idea what Alec Pierce is.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 212 pounds. He's like a fast tight end out there.
He's a fast. Okay, he's Jared Cook. Then he can't catch, and he's a fast tight end. Guys, if you're enjoying this show, make sure you click the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Really help us out. And let's talk tight ends really quick because, I mean, Mark Andrews. I don't know if he's going to be chalked this week because 7,100 is a lot to pay at the tight end position, but it's really difficult to argue with production. If you're playing Lamar, you almost have to have a bunch of exposure to Andrews. Over 28 DraftKings points in each of the last 2 weeks. DC, are we paying up at tight end this week, or are we trying to save?
I think it's going to end up being a week where I'm not really able to spend up at tight end very much because I like those big 3 quarterbacks, Allen, Lamar, Hurts. Right now, I think I want a lot of Saquon Barkley on my teams. We talked about the alpha wide receivers, and it's just probably going to be a scenario where I almost have to go cheaper. Yes, if you're playing Lamar Jackson, I will definitely have some Mark Andrews, no question about it. But I think ultimately I'll probably have to spend down here a little bit. Yeah, we saw Kyle Pitts. Of course, there's just no way that they were going to just completely abandon Kyle Pitts for the entire year. People looking at 2 games of data, I get that the targets weren't there, but it had to change, and it did change. 8 targets, 87 yards. He is capable of a huge game. That Cleveland-Atlanta game, I think, could potentially have more points in it than people think. So I do like him a little bit. Zach Ertz, I mean, we talked about it on Sunday morning, AP. It's like, this guy's going to get peppered with targets. They just don't really have anybody else. He got 10 targets, didn't have a huge game, but you love that amount of targets for 4,700. I'm going to continue to ride Dallas Goddard, who I think maybe won't get a huge amount of targets, but another really good player attached to an offense that I think is going to move the ball. So I like him quite a bit. So yeah, there are some guys here. I don't know if I'll go all the way down at tight end, but certainly some guys to look at. I do think Andrews, clearly the top guy at this position this week, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, can you afford to get all the way up to him?
The chat wants us to talk about Daniel Bellinger, the Giants tight end, which is, if you want to save a ton of money, he's only 2,800. He caught he had 5 targets, caught 4 balls for 40 yards last week. And if you need to save all the way down, I don't hate that play. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. TJ Hawkinson's a guy at 4,100 that I'm going to continue to play. Can you play him with Jamal Williams? Actually, maybe if you're stacking up this game, I don't have an issue with that. And Gerald Everett's somebody who, with Keenan Allen probably coming back, I don't have as much interest in, but he has shown production, as has everybody else against Houston. AP, tight end position, are you paying up for Andrews? This mid-range, once again, it's the same thing, man. Like, this mid-range is just really strong at tight end.
Yeah, for me, it's Kyle Pitts. I got on him last week. I like what I saw. Mariota obviously getting a little bit more comfortable there, mainly with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think this is going to be, kind of a game that maybe surprises people. Like, it's a game on the surface, you're like, oh, the Browns, Falcons, don't really want to stack it up. But when you consider it's in the dome, you consider the Falcons defense is not competent at all. When you consider the Falcons offense, I'm not a Mariota guy, but man, Kyle Pitts, dude's talented. Drake London looks really good. And it's a hard stack to make. Like, it's a hard stack. It's an easy stack when you stack it up and you're like, that looks really gross when you're relying on Brissett and Mariota. But if you get Amari Cooper running back with a Kyle Pitts, it's something I did last week with the Seahawks guys, DK Metcalf and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was 1 catch away from that 100-yard bonus, has yet to get in the end zone. We're going to see those touchdowns come. I think when you DC, you talk about this all the time. Think about the player and what are their stats going to look like at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts is going to positively, regress in the right direction. If you want to call it that.
His end of year season line is going to be like 90 catches for 1,200 yards and
Yep.
5 touchdowns or something, right? And so
Right.
those touchdowns have to start coming, because I know he only scored one last year. You have to. This is bringing back to the very beginning of the show, where talking about Big T. The thing I think he does so well is just stop for a minute and stop looking at the game logs and the snap counts and think who's talented, think who's eventually going to have big games, and try to get on those guys before those big games come, not after, right? Before they come. It hasn't quite come for Kyle Pitts yet. If you believe it's coming, which I think you would be kind of crazy not to, frankly, then you got to get on it before it happens, because he's going to go up in price. He's going to be more popular. You got to have some faith that these plays are going to come through for you if the opportunity is there, if the talent is there. It's all true for Kyle Pitts. So, yeah, I think it's important to take a step back sometimes and realize, if you think something's going to happen over the course of the season and then there's no reason it couldn't happen this week, then jump on it. Have a little faith and then go for it.
Yeah, and it's not like this is a low total either. This total's nearly 50. And you don't take the Browns and the Falcons as a game that's going to be high scoring. Like if I said, hey guys, Browns and Falcons, immediately I would think, it's a 42, 43 point total. It's nearly 50, guys. So like Pitts, I think one of the best plays on the slate. And as you guys were just talking about, he is somebody whose price is only going to go up. And when that's the case, you want to buy low on this guy whenever you can. All right, we're about to get off here. AP, any final thoughts for you?
It sets up to be a really interesting, really fun week. Looks to be good for tournaments. Just like ending on that game, like Browns, Falcons, like David Njoku too, a tight end that I overlooked. He got 10 targets last week. So it's going to be a fun week. So not like I don't know. I could easily, some of these plays where you could very early get locked in onto, I think there's going to be a case to be made to move off of them for different stacks. So it sets up to be a good tournament week.
Yeah, DC, final thoughts for you?
Yeah, fun show. Looking forward to it. Good to break it all down. There'll be a lot that changes between now and Sunday. It's important, like AP said, not to get, take lock and lock in things too early. You got to be willing to change your mind and react to any new information that we have. But I'm with AP. I think it's going to be a really, really fun week 4, and certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, it feels a little like an old school slate. We're paying up at quarterback and running back, saving a little bit at wide receiver. Take me back to 2018, baby. Let's get it done over at Run Pure Sports. Guys, if you enjoyed this show, on your way out, click the like button, click the subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. But we got to get out of here right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. For AP, for DC, I'm Eric. We will see you guys later. Peace.